Let's start with an absurd truth. We are paying companies to make our memories look real. Instagram filters don't just beautify, they age. They distress, and they simulate film grain, like it was some kind of digital patina. These tools turn a perfectly ordinary photo into something that feels lived in, weathered evens. It's not about quality anymore. It's about the illusion of history. The cracks in these pixels aren't flaws. They're features designed to mimic imperfection as authenticity. We want our life. This isn't just about aesthetics. It's about control. The more we mistake algorithmic artifacts for lived experience, the easier it is to sell us a future that never asked for our opinions. We're not just consuming the past, we're manufacturing it in bulk and then pretending it was always there. That's the real trick. You don't even need to convince people of something new anymore. Just show them a past they didn't live, but now believe they remember. Neil Postman warned that every new technology doesn't just change our tools. It rewrites what we mean by truth and history itself. He called this shift from typewriters to telephones, from books to screens, a kind of cultural amnesia where the past is erased or repurposed for whatever service the present needs. Technopoly isn't just about control through code. It's about manufacturing consensus through memory manipulations. When we look at how progress has always been advertised as nostalgic continuity, argued that the photograph doesn't just depict, it guarantees. When we see a photo of something, we don't question whether it happened. We assume it did. This is what he called that. Has been an assertion of pastness, so strong it becomes proof. Now imagine this applied to digital artifacts, vintage filters on smartphones, AI, generated retro fonts, deepfakes with VHS noise and static. What used to be memory is now a product sold in service of trust. Nostalgia made marketable. The museum of the future is not about what comes next. It's a shrine to what was never there. It's built on the same tricks advertisers used in the 1950s. Make progress look like preservation, sell innovation as inheritance. The nostalgia industry doesn't want you to remember the past. It wants you to believe that your current systems are the natural result of something simpler and true. This is how trust is manufactured, not through transparency, but through the illusion of continuity.
municipalities, etc., the data that they have, or the ability to influence the election, is still very high. And the risk against them is the same as the risk against some of the largest federal agencies that we might have here in the United States. Unfortunately, there's a disparate, there's a problem between those two where one has a much larger budget than the other, right? So they need to, unfortunately, they're going to have to do more with less. They're going to have to pay attention. They're going to have to implement cybersecurity controls in all areas, physical access controls.
Early computer systems were mechanical marvels, constrained by vacuum tubes, punch cards, and rudimentary memory. Machines.
Modern AI doesn't just mimic human behavior. It mimics the edge appearance of humanity. It learns to stutter, to pause awkwardly in conversation, even to write with a simulated tremor, as if guided by a trembling hand. These are not flaws. They're features engineered for persuasion. The more mechanical systems can convincingly replicate human imperfection, the easier they become to trust, or at least to tolerate. This is how we program ghosts, not just in software, but in our expectations of what feels real. Just this week, AI data centers are being debated as dangerous, but the real danger may not be what they process. It's how they present themselves. Some operators design their facilities to resemble retro server rooms from the early internet era, complete with blinking lights and analog-style dashboards. This isn't nostalgia, it's reassurance. We trust what looks familiar, even when it's a carefully curated illusion of old world authenticity. The past is not being remembered here. It's being manufactured. When we automate, the illusion of humanity becomes a requirement. AI moderators on social platforms are sometimes programmed to ask clarifying questions, not because they need clarification, but so their decisions feel like reasoned deliberation rather than cold calculation. This is where authenticity gets weaponized. Imperfection is no longer accidental, it's strategic. The more we automate, the harder we work at making those systems look less like machines and more like people who just happen to be
Modern packaging does more than wrap and hold and conceal. Stunning in color, ingenious in design.
Postman warned that technopoly would not simply change how we live, it would change what we believe about living. It's not just the tools, but the mindset they foster. We now accept simulations as truths because there is no longer an original to reference. Fathers once said that a punctum in an image was something you couldn't control or predict. A small wound, perhaps, that stabs the viewer. But in our algorithm-driven world, even the personal has been optimized for engagement and relevance. If the past we know has already been rewritten, And if authenticity can be simulated with enough precision to fool the senses, then what is there left to trust? The future no longer needs to offer something better. It only requires convincing enough lies about who we were and how we felt. Our memories are now just data points in someone else's narrative of progress. And so, the world ahead doesn't need a revolution. It just needs a clean design system and a good backstory.